international affairs. The event was held at the National Press Club this past week here in the nation's capital to discuss Mr. Sadr's book entitled My Turn to Speak, Iran, the Revolution, and Secret Deals with the U.S.
I have been amazed by the reception of my book in America. The publisher won't tell me how he was able to hire the public relations firm that guaranteed that you would be here this morning. He won't tell me how much he had to pay the Department of State to advertise my book, My Turn to Speak. But this is a more serious business than trying to get even with the State Department. I really have been disappointed that the press has focused only on less than 5% of my book, on my thoughts, recollections, and analysis of that about what happened during 1980 and how those actions endangered my life, affected my tenure as democratically elected president of Iran, and affected the U.S. election and the lives of innocent American hostages only. But the book is also about the Iranian Revolution. It is about Khomeini, and I have insight that no one else in the world has. It is about Saddam Hussein and a war that killed and maimed more than 1 million Iranians, many innocent women and children. It is about the Shah of Iran, his armed forces, and the conflict between the different elements of the revolutionary movement in Iran. It is about Khomeini controlling events by playing groups against each other. It is about my opposition to the hostage-taking and how I tried to get them released because of what it was against Iran's interests. Beyond the book, in the decade since I have fled Iran, I have studied, analyzed, and reported what is happening in Iran, the Persian Gulf, and the Middle East. But reporters don't ask me questions on my opinion on these things. It is as though words stop for me. It is as though the media can only focus on one important story and not on the unfolding events in the Middle East, which leads to a summary of my thoughts to the present and future role of the United States in the Middle East. After this, I would welcome questions on this subject and the others I am sure you are interested to ask. The present and future role of the United States in the Middle East. Concerning the present and future role of the United States in the region, I propose that the three fundamental guiding aims of U.S. policy prevents the United States from changing its policies in Iran and in the region. 1, the desire to control the oil market. 2, the desire to maintain a market for arms. 3, the support for Israeli hegemony in the region. These three aims constitute obstacles to change in the political structure of the Middle East. The problems of the region are partially the result of these goals. The solution to the problems of the Middle East will be found through changes in the political structure of the region, which would lead to 1, establishment of democratic governments, 2, starting a regional development plan to benefit the poor masses which invest some of the riches of the monarchs, emirs, and sheikhs, 3, ending the arms race and the policy of balance of forces which result in the spread of misery as a corollary. The United States, contrary to what it would like others to believe with its show of forces, will in the long run find its influence weakened. The support provided to dictatorial regime and governments in the region and throughout the world will hasten that decline. The Gulf War is a striking example of thinking which does not understand the Middle East and the outcome of its actions. Saddam's government relied on the West for commerce, arms, and the purchase of Iraq's oil. The West helped make him a menace. The American government, in claiming that Saddam's army was the fourth largest in the world, did not tell the American people that it was not the fourth best in the world. On that basis of that lie, the United States set Iraq back 50 years and massacred its people. Even the government in Iran that I despise supported the sanctions, and they would have worked. 1 week after calling on the Iraqi people to overthrow the government in Iraq, the United States abandoned them to Saddam's repression. Again, a bad evaluation of our region. Mr. Bush has declared that the United States did not wish to intervene in the internal affairs of Iraq. Were not the strength of Saddam's army and the financial weakness of Saddam's government the fruit of such earlier intervention? If American policy were not determined by these three goals, the United States would have realized what would happen in the south and north of Iraq from day one. I hope I can help educate America about my region of the world. Thank you.
I'll field questions now, and Mr. Banisadr will respond, and then be interpreted by Mr. Abolhassan. Yes.
Mr. President, do you think you have a certain role you can play in Iran if you return back to this country? And how far do you feel that the countries around you will be cooperating with the new Iran, not with the Iran of the mullahs?
Sure. The question is that how President Banisadr feels about his return to Iran, if I got this correctly. And if he does, how would the countries of the region would cooperate with Iran, with the new Iran?
من فکر نمی کنم. من قصد دارم که برمیگردم به ایران به لحاظ اینکه امروز وضعیت نه تنها در منطقه بلکه در دنیا روشنه. استبداد در همه جا در حال سقوط.
I don't think, I'm certain I would go back. And that's because not only in the region but in the whole world, the dictatorship are getting weakened and weakened, and we're going to get away with them very soon.
امروز در ایران اون تمایل‌های طرفدار استبداد، استالینیست‌های چپ، رژیم باقی مانده‌های رژیم سابق و ملایان حاکم در حال اضمحلالند و در برابر اونها نیروهای طرفدار دموکراسی در حال قوت گرفتن. اگر شما فکر میکنید که استبداد جاودانی است، من بر نخواهم گشت. اگر فکر میکنید مثل من که استبداد مردنی است، من قدم بر خواهم گشت.
Today in Iran, the political scene of Iran, the forces for dictatorship, the Stalinist leftists, the remnants of the royalists, and the dictatorial clerics are disappearing from the Iranian scene. If you think that the dictatorship is going to be permanent, no, I wouldn't be back. But I strongly believe that dictatorship is a dying phenomenon, and democracy would prevail. And I would go back to Iran.
اما راجع به همکاری مردم منطقه، من گمان میکنم که تمامی مردم منطقه و همه حوزه بزرگ فرهنگ اسلامی خواهان دموکراسی هستند و بیشتر از خواهان میتوان گفت که یک نیاز اساسی است برای رشد این کشورها و این همکاری قطعا تحصیل.
In response to your question about the cooperation of the countries and peoples of the region, I think that they all need and desire democracy, not only in that region, but in the greater Islamic countries.
Next question.
Yes. There's been much discussion with regard to the so-called October surprise in the last few days, which of course is making your book very controversial at this time. One of the accusations or one of the allegations that have been taken up regard the personal involvement of then Vice President George Bush in the negotiations which delayed the release of hostages to benefit the election of the Reagan-Bush administration. What do you know about the personal involvement of Vice President Bush in this operation?
Now I won't be able to translate.
این اصطلاح اکتبر سورپرایز از خود آقای بوشه. لابد وقتی این اصطلاح رو به کار برده نقشه‌ای داشته برای اینکه جلوگیری کنه از اکتبر سورپرایز. حالا شما از ایشون بپرسید که نقشه‌ای که شما داشتید برای جلوگیری از اکتبر سورپرایز چه بود و چگونه اجرا کردید. اون چه که من میدانم و در این کتاب آوردم این از طریق اون معامله انجام گرفت که در پاریس مرحله خطیش گذران و سبب شد که گروگانها دیرتر آزاد بشوند و در ازاش در ایران استبداد روحانی برقرار بشود و اسلحه بگیره و 8 سال بجنگه. این واقعیتی است که من در این کتاب توضیح دادم. اما اینکه شخص آقای بوش بوده یا نه من نمیدونم. از نظر من اهمیتی هم نداره که اون بوده یا نبوده، برای اینکه این مسئله شخصی نیست، مسئله یک روابط ناسالمی است که این روابط ناسالم موضوع بحث من در اون کتاب بوده. بعضی منابع میگویم بوده و من هیچ اطمینانی ندارم که این منابع موثقی باشن. این منابع بیشتر هم امریکایی هستن. یک منبع از ایران به من اطلاع داده که ایشون هم بوده. من هنوز نتوانستم اون منبع رو به اصطلاح موثق بودن چیزشو تحقیق کنم.
First of all, it appears that it was Mr. Bush who created that phrase, October surprise. To me, it means that they must have some plans to prevent it. And I think you should ask President Bush what his role was in there, what was the plan. As far as I know, some secret deals had taken place, which has led to was main reason to lead to the clerical dictatorship in Iran. Whether he was there or not, I don't know. I was just quoting some American sources. I don't know how reliable those sources are. I just received one piece of information from Iran. I don't know how reliable that one source is. But it's not important whether Mr. Bush was or participated in those meetings or not. What I'm concerned with, what is significant, is the unhealthy relationship, secret relationship that existed and affected both our countries.
Est-ce qu'il est possible de répéter votre dernière réponse en français?
Pour moi, ce n'est pas important que M. Bush était ou n'était pas présent. Ce qui est important, c'est que ce genre de relations secrètes a fait ce qui a fait d'un peuple, de sa révolution, de sa démocratie. Il a détruit un pays, une génération. Voilà qui importe.
Mais vous n'avez pas de preuve si M. Bush était présent.
Non.
What was the question and what was the answer?
This press conference is in English, and you may translate the answers later. He has been actively involved in French television with French newspapers, so we just can't do this in 7 languages.
It was a French response to the same question. It was the same response as I translated.
It was a response to your
Could you elaborate on what you meant when you said that the administration didn't tell the American people the truth about the size or strength of the Iraqi army and how that affected the outcome of the war?
ممکن توضیح بدیم منظورتون از اینکه آمریکا به مردمشون در مورد قدرت و اندازه چیز
بگید که خب شما میدونید که گفتن به مردم امریکا که ارتش عراق 4مین ارتش روی زمین. در عمل هم دیدید که هیچ مقاومت این ارتش نداشت. ما هم 8 سال با این ارتش جنگیده بودیم و روشن بود که این ارتش 4مین که نیست، خیلی خیلی دور. مثلا این ارتش به نظر شما از ارتش چین قوی‌تر بود؟ این ارتش از ارتش‌های کشورهای اروپایی قوی‌تر بود؟ چرا خلاف حقیقت این آشکاری میگفت به نظر شما؟ غیر از برای این بود که توجیه کنه حضور نظامیشو در اونجا و این سرکوب شگرفی که کرد.
The American people were told that the Iraqi army is the 4th largest army in the world. We have fought that army for 8 years. I know it's not. Ask yourself, was the Iraqi army larger and better than Chinese army? Is that better and larger and more efficient than European armies? To me, it appears that they lied to American people in order to justify their presence in the region and the bombardment and the destruction of Iraq for their own interest.
Yes. You speak in your book about deals between the Reagan people and the mullahs, and you say everybody knew about them, there must have been deals. Other than your feeling that there must have been a deal because things weren't going your way, what proof do you have to offer? And the second question would be, if the mullahs were interested in being dominated by the U.S. with their actions with the Reagan people, and you say they gave them gifts like the release of the 52 hostages and the increase of oil production,
Why then did the mullahs never give Reagan the gift that he wanted, which was the release of the hostages in Lebanon, which were held by groups loyal to Khomeini?
یه شما تو کتاب نشان میکنید که همه میدونن اگر میگین که همه میدونستن، آیا فقط در این نبود که شما داشتین ضعیف میشدین؟ اگر میگین که ملاها بردگان اینا برادر پاسماندهشون جایزه دادن، چرا گروگانهای لبنان رو بهشون ندادن؟
اینکه اون وقتی من در کتاب گفتم همه صحبت میکردن، راجع به مسئله صحبت میکردن، همه منظور در مجلس اون زمان در کسانی که در ریاست جمهوری کار میکردن و کسانی که در دوروبر آقای خمینی بودن، منظور همه یعنی اینها. و در این محیط ضعف قوت من مسئله نبود برای اینکه بین اینها صحبت. اما اینکه چرا بعد لبنان رو ندادن، سوال جالبی شما میکنید و اون یک مقایسه هم میشه کرد. خب که چطور شد که این 52 گروگان ایران در طبق قرارداد الجزیره آزاد کرد بدون اینکه هیچ گونه مابعضایی بخواد. حتی به قول آقای کارتر مجازات مالی هم شد، 10 میلیارد از پولش هم پس ندادن. حال اینکه بعد در مورد گروگانهای لبنان ما ببینیم در ازای هر گروگان مبلغ زیاد اسلحه گرفته ایران. به نظر شما نمی‌رسه که این یک مورد استثنایی یه دلیل خاصی داشته و خود این دلیله؟ اما اینکه چرا در مورد لبنان نتوانستن؟ برای اینکه در مورد لبنان شما که امروز هم همینجور می‌بینید تنها تهران نیست که تصمیم می‌گیره، سوریه هم هست، خود لبنانی هم که گرفتن هست و بعدم 2 جناح تقسیم شدن. اون وقتی با قضیه کارتر بود این 2 جناح فعلی 1 جناح بودن، حالا 2 جناح شدن، یک دست موافقت میکنه یک دست نمیکنه. اینه که گیر کرده.
When I talked about everybody knowing about that, I meant everybody in the presidential palace or office, everybody in the parliament, and everybody surrounding Khomeini. I didn't mean everybody in the street is talking about it. So in that sense, and in those circles, the weakness of my power was not an issue to everybody to know about it. What gift they gave to Reagan, they didn't get anything. That's just and the question related to Lebanese, the hostages in Lebanon. Just give you a comparison. When they released the hostages held in Iran, the 52 hostages, they did not get anything in return. Not only that, according to President Carter, Iran was punished by about $10 billion of its assets not being given back to Iran. As far as the Lebanese held hostages are concerned, for every one of them released, the hostage holders got something back. Why Iran is not releasing them? There are 2 or 3 factors. One, Iran alone is not the decision makers. Syria is involved, and some forces in Lebanon are involved. The other one is that regarding hostages in Iran, the group, everybody who were responsible for hostages in Iran were together. Today, there are 2 very opposing factions in Iran, and this action and interreaction between them leads those hostages not to be released.
About this question of the 2 forces at work in Iran, how do you assess the degree to which Rafsanjani has consolidated his grip on power? And to what extent does he control the Revolutionary Guard?
بگید که پاسدارا کنترل یه قسمتشون مثلا قابل کنترل هم کسانی که بعد از دوره اول انقلاب به پاسداری پذیرفته شدن، بیشتر به حالت پروفسیونل هم کمتر به عقیده متکی‌اند. با این حال پایه رژیم از کنترل آقای رفسنجانی هنوز بیرونه.
As far as the control of the Revolutionary Guard is concerned, you have to distinguish, you divide them in 2 groups. Those who joined the Revolutionary Guards after the revolution, they're more like conscripts, they're professional soldiers. Those who created or joined the Revolutionary Guards during the revolution, those joined them because of ideology and things like that. As far as the massive grassroots of the Revolutionary Guards are concerned, Rafsanjani does not have that much control. The basis of the Revolutionary Guards, the grassroots, he doesn't have that much control. Just 1 second, please. ارزیابیتون راجع به رابطه دو تا جناح.
مگه دو جناح هر دوشون اصلاحی نیستن از جهت سرکوب و در داخل. جناح رفسنجانی سرکوبگره در داخل نسبت به دنیای خارج، خصوصا غرب عکسه. جناح رفسنجانی به اصطلاح تمایل به سازش داره، تمایل اون طرف تمایل به سازش نشون نمیده.
اون قدرت رو تصویر کرده رفسنجانی
نسبت به اونا قوی تر شده.
As far as I'm concerned, they're both Stalinists. Stalinists in the sense that they're both suppressing people. Rafsanjani is more suppressing than the other one within Iran. Outside Iran, Rafsanjani is more concessionary. He's giving more concessions outside Iran than the other group. Inside, he's more suppressing than the other one. As far as his control of power and he's consolidating his power, yes, he is more powerful. He's been able to consolidate more power against the other group. But he has not totally consolidated power then.
Future of the Gulf after the destruction of Iraq, and do you see Iran joining with security arrangements engineered by the Americans?
یا آینده گلف رو چجوری می‌بینید خلیفه؟ فکر می‌کنید که ایران توی در چیزا پیماهای نظامی که آمریکایی‌ها چیز می‌کنن شرکت می‌کنه؟
که من ایران بعد از چندین قرن یک موقعیت بیمانندی پیدا کرده. برای اولین بار در مرزهاش دشمن حضور نداره، برای اینکه روسیه الان در وضعیت داخلی مناسب با توسط طلبینی و در مرزهای دیگه ایران هم قدرت تهدید کننده حضور نداره. بهترین سیاست برای ایران در حال حاضر با توجه به اینکه در مرزها این چنین وضعیتی داره دموکراسی و رشد و عدم شرکت در دسته‌بندی‌های نظامی خصوصا. اما اینکه اونها شرکت میدهند ایران رو یا نه تا حالا ندادن و گمان من نیست که با ساخت کنونی سیاسی نظامی منطقه بتوانند به ایران یک جای مشخصی بدهند که این رژیم خواهانوست.
Iran is enjoying currently, presently is enjoying a unique situation after about 200 years. For the first time in about 200 years, Iran is not being threatened in its border by foreign power. On the one hand, Soviet Union, due to its internal affairs, internal situation, it does not have any expansionist policy. There is no other military threat to Iran. Given this unique situation that Iran is enjoying, I think the best path for Iran is democracy and growth and non-participation in any military, political association and accords in the region. Whether so far they have not asked Iran, they have not let Iran in any of these associations they're talking about in the region. I don't think that given the political structure of the region, Iran would not be a good participant in that one. Would not.
Please describe as specifically as you can what the secret deal was between the Reagan campaign team and the clerics in Iran, and any evidence you can offer to support that would be helpful.
میتونید مشخص بگین که قرار محرمانه‌ای که گذاشته شده بود بین ایرانگیتی ها و ریگان چی بوده و چه مدارکی میتونید ارائه کنید؟
که من چند روزی که در اینجا هستم هر روز این مدرک رو میشنوم و چند بارم پرسیدم کسی از شما به من نگفته شما چه چیز رو مدرک میدونید. اگر به من بگید که چه چیز رو مدرک میدانید شاید من بتوانم یک پاسخ مشخصی بدهم به سوال شما. آیا به نظر شما اینکه گروگانها رو مذاکرات راجع به گروگانگیری رو ناگهان از اواسط اکتبر قطع کردن تا انتخابات ریاست جمهوری امریکا، بعد هم اینها رو درست همزمان با آقای ریاست جمهوری آقای ریگان آزاد کردن، این دلیلی نیست، مدرکی نیست؟ این چیزهایی که واقع شده از اون زمان تا امروز، به اصطلاح اینا که اسمش انگلیسی میشه فکت، این فکت‌ها به نظر شما مدرک نیست؟ چون اگر این کتابه که من در دست شما دادم تاریخ است و اطلاع است و فکت، هر کدوم از اینها قابل بررسی است که این فکت‌ها صحیحن یا نه. یک توافقی انجام گرفته برای اینکه این آزادی گروگانها رو به تأخیر بیاندازن. این رو نه امروز من گفتم این رو در قبل از انتخابات ریاست جمهوری امریکا در اکتبر 1980 گفتم و بعدم واقع شده. همینجور که من اون وقت در کارنامه اون وقت گفتم واقع شده. به نظر شما وقتی یک رئیس جمهوری اطلاعی رو میگوید که قرار است برای تأخیر انداختن این قضیه، بعد هم تأخیر میفته، این دلیل نیست؟ حالا اگر این دلیل نیست، مثلا فرض کنید که قرارداد امضا کرده باشم برای خرید، دیره شما میگید دکومان، مثلا مدرک، از اونها هم هست. به من بگید که چه چیز رو مدرک میدونید تا من اون رو به شما بدم.
In the last few days, I've been asking the reporters what you mean by documents, by proof. And nobody has defined me, none of the reporters has defined me what they mean as proof. Isn't the fact that in early October 1980, and all of a sudden, the negotiation for resolving the hostage crisis was stopped and did not start until the election was taking place in the United States. And then the hostages were not released until the next president saw in. Isn't that a proof? The fact that I'm giving you facts. The book is all about dates, information, and facts. It's up to you to go and see whether those are accurate or not. For instance, I talked about documents showing that right after Mr. Reagan came to power, there was some arms being sold to Iran, arms that could not be sold without the United States' consent. Those documents, some of those documents have been published. I have the rest of them. Are those proof? So I'm waiting for you to tell me what you mean by proof, see if I can provide you with those.
Let me follow up then. Do you know firsthand, or have you spoken to anyone else who was involved firsthand, who's told you specifically what took place?
What? I'm saying the last part of it?
Anybody else, if not he himself, anybody else who knows specifically what took place? Has he spoken with anybody?
دیگه میدونیم که دقیقاً یا شما اگر نمیدونیم میدونیم کسی به شما گفته دقیقاً چه قرار دادی چه قراری با هم گذاشتن؟
بله دقیقاً معلوم دقیقاً قرار گذاشتن که امریکا اسلحه به ایران برسونه و از این رژیم حمایت بکنه، از رژیم ملاها. در ازاش اینا هم به تأخیر بیاندازن آزادی گروگانان رو. همینجور هم در عمل واقع شده.
Yes, obviously, I know what happened. The agreement was the United States first supports the clerics involved in Iran Gate as in power, give them arms, and on the other hand, from the other side, they would delay the release of hostages until the President Reagan saw it. And it happened. Now, but I'm not saying now this. I have said this at the time when they were happening. I published them in my newspaper on a daily basis.
نه کارنامه‌هایی بوده که من اون وقت هر روز می‌نوشتم. در روزنامه منتشر می‌کردم.
These are the columns that I had, daily columns I had on a newspaper in Abolhassan in Iran. These are the information that I received. I checked them, I compared them with events that was taking place and published them on a daily basis. This book is not written after the event. This book is based on those information published while those events were taking place and published in my daily column. I started that column on July 1st, 1980. Then I realized that those secret relations had entered a very decisive phase. Then I started writing these columns to inform my people about what's happening.
When did you tell them that surprise with your column?
کی راجب اکتبر سورپرایز کی گفتیم در این
میگه که از اول ژوئیه همینجور اطلاعی که به من رسیده در اینجا گفتم.
As of July 1st, whatever information I received related to that, I published it and described it in the column.
به طور مرتب تا آخر.
To the very end.
تا ژوئن 1981.
Until June 81.
شما کمتر روزی پیدا میکنید که اطلاعی راجع به این زدوبندهای محرمانه تو این کارنامه نباشه.
You hardly find one day that there is not one piece of information about the evolution of that relation.
I'm sorry,
Since the book was published in France in 1989, When was the first contact with an American journalist about the book?
یه موقعی که به فرانسه چاپ شد اولین تماس با شما از خبرنگار آمریکایی در این رابطه کی بوده؟
با یه خبرنگار امریکایی من واقعی قضیه است که به حاضر پزه نمیسپارم خبرنگارایی که پیش من میاد چون زیاد میاد من نمیتوانم به شما بگم اولیش کی آمده راجع به کتاب اما مشخص ترینش خبرنگار تایمه که بعد از انتشار انگلیسیش که من آمده
خبرنگار این واشنگتن
نه تایم و نیازوی که به من با تلفن صحبت در پاریس و همین قبلا نه من یکی از چیزا همینه که مسئله اساسی که به نظر من از هر دلیل و مدرک مهمتر است این است که این کتاب در 89 منتشر شده تا امروز هیچ کدام از امرهای واقع نه توسط رژیم ایران نه توسط مقامات امریکایی تکذیب مشخصی دریافت نکرده.
Well, I can't recall. There's so many of them have been contacting me all along. I can't recall who was there and who was especially the first one since the book was published in French. I recall two most recent reporters that approached me after the book was talked about the English version of it from Time Magazine and Newsweek who done interviews with me in Paris. You raise a very good point about the significance of the book. Since the book was published in 1989, neither the Iranian government nor the American government has denied either one of those facts published in the book. Nobody so far has been denying any fact given in the book.
I wanted to clarify whether there were any changes in the English language edition of the book compared with the original French. And need to straighten out the question of when it was actually published, because some reports have referred to it being published in 1988, and now you're using 1989, which is...
It was published in 89. یه تفاوتی تغییراتی در چیز فرانسه و انگلیسی بود.
من اونقدر انگلیسی را اگر قوی بودم که میتوانستم این در این مقایسه به شما بگم که عیناً همون متن فرانسه است، نه این قوت رو ندارم در زبان انگلیسی. ولی من که قبلا یه دفعه خوندم به نظر نیامد که چیزی باشه که حرف من نباشه. کلمات ممکنه معانی داشته باشن که من نفهمیدم.
I'm not that fluent or proficient in English to tell you that whether exactly everything is there or not. But I read it once. To me, it's the same. Sometimes some words could mean something that I may not understand, but to me, it appears to be the same thing. I mean, you should ask Frank about it.
There's not a story.
Make one.
No, I don't want to make any stories. We've got enough. The book was published precisely as best you can through a translation as it was in French, because I saw this as his view, not anybody else's, of what happened, as a historic document that 17 students might use in some course somewhere. I didn't expect this. It's been very interesting. But basically, we published his book. We did check facts on a Brennecke document, on a Brennecke trial, and found there was one misstatement of a name. I could give you the details if you want that. And we changed that, and we told him about it. And that's the only thing. Otherwise, it's his book, as it was published in French, as best you can do through a very good translation.
What is the name of the newspaper in which you began publishing on July 1st, the details of this as you saw it?
There's a newspaper, Inqilab Islami, Islamic Revolution. We published in Iran, a daily newspaper. That was it.
Can you state the name clearly?
Inqilab Islami, that's the Farsi of it. The English version is Islamic Revolution.
I got one. You've said that chances for democracy in Iran are never better than they are now, and for the first time in 200 years, Iran is not threatened at its borders. Do you think in light of that perhaps the Iranian people might not want to build a statue of General Schwarzkopf in downtown Tehran?
میگه شما گفتین که ایران در شانسی داره در 20 سال گذشته که هیچ وقت هیچ خطر خارجی تهدیدش نمیکنه. میگه فکر نمیکنه که مردم ایران بخوان مجسمه آقای شوارزکوف رو تو مرکز تهران بسازن.
نه خیال نمیکنم که اولا پدر این آقای شوارزکوف در کودتا بر ضد دولت دموکرات دکتر مصدق نقش داشت. ثانیاً این آقای صدام حسین و رژیم او و ارتش او رو غرب ساخت و ما نمیتوانیم یک روز از شما تشکر بکنیم که این قدرت رو ساختید و 8 سال ملت ما رو با این قدرت در جنگ قرار دادید. یک روز از شما شکایت کنیم برای این کار، یک روز دیگه بیام از شما تشکر کنیم برای این کار. آیا بهتر نیست که شما این سیاست فروش به اسلحه رو، امریکا این سیاست فروش اسلحه به رژیم‌های دیکتاتوری منطقه رو رها بکنه و بگذاره این ملت‌های منطقه با هم در تفاهم و در دموکراسی زندگی کنند؟
Well, I don't think so. First of all, it was Mr. Schwarzkopf's father who was involved and participated in the overthrow of the democratically elected government of Dr. Mossadegh in 1953. Second, the army of Mr. Saddam Hussein is a product of the West. And what has happened to Iran in the 8-year war is the West partly blamed for it. You can't expect us one day to thank you for something you do and build a statue of you, and next day to complain about you. I think the best thing is for the United States to stop selling arms to this region and let the people of the region to live, and selling arms to the dictatorial regime in the region, and let the people in the region to live in harmony and friendship.
Yes, one of the deans of Washington Journal participated in many of our press conferences.
Well, I'm proud to have worked on this story for a long time. I want to ask you 3 specific points. One, did Khomeini insist that either Reagan or Bush come to Paris to cinch the deal?
تو تا سوال داریم که خمینی اصرار کرده بود مشخصا که ریگان یا بوش به پاریس برای قرارداد نهایی کردن.
موقع یکی که جواب بدم یا از
جواب شد one by one as you asked it was that.
و اینکه این در خمینی نیست، در این منابع امریکایی یکی گفته که آقای رفسنجانی این اصرار رو داشته که آقای بوش خودش حاضر باشه در گفتگو. من هیچ نمیدارم که این خبر صحیحه یا نه.
Wasn't Khomeini, according to some American sources, it was Mr. Rafsanjani who insisted that one of these gentlemen should participate in the Paris meeting, should be met, to make sure that the deal is, authentic. I don't have any information in that respect.
Did you know about the man who was sent to Senator John Tower to ask him if the Reagan-Bush people would be interested?
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Did you know the name of the man, or did you know about the arrangement whereby an Iranian or an Israeli businessman came to Senator John Tower to ask him to find out if the Reagan-Bush people would be interested in a deal?
میدونید که کی بوده ایرانی اسرائیلی که رفته با آقای تاور تماس گرفته که اینم علاقه نداره؟
بله، اون خودش گفته که بوده، یعنی آقای هوشنگ لاوی. و این قبل از ملاقات با مایک فارلین و سناتور تاور تماس گرفته. او سناتور لاوی رو در رابطه گذاشته با مایک فارلین. این رو لاوی میگه. و مهم اینه که آقای سناتور در کتابی که نوشته تنها چیزی که بهش سکوت کرده، راجبش حرف نزده، همین مسئله نقشش در اکتبر سپرایز.
Well, Mr. Lavie has accepted, or has said that he was the one who contacted Senator Tower, and Senator Tower introduced him to Mr. McFarlane. That's very interesting. The Senator Tower in his book, the only thing he doesn't talk about is his role in October Surprise. As you know, it was raised in his nomination, congressional hearing for his nomination as Minister of Defense or Secretary of Defense. And that was one of the questions that was raised. But he never addressed himself in that book about this question.
Interjection. It's an interesting one. Until about 3 months ago, Senator Tower was the chairman of my board. Until about 3 months ago, Senator Tower... Oh, I'm sorry. Keep doing this. Until about 3 months ago, Senator Tower was the chairman of my board. When I read this manuscript and wanted to publish it, I didn't send it to him for approval because that's not how we work, but I sent it to him for information. I never heard one word from him. I think that's rather interesting. I'm not defending him. I'm just telling you what happened. And the crisscrosses of this whole thing are very interesting and strange.
The third thing I'd like to ask, would you tell us as much as you know about the involvement of Mr. Casey?
من اول اسمی که شنیدم راجع به این روابط اسم آقای کیسی بود. من اون وقت شنیدم نمیدونستم آقای کیسی کیه، چون این روابط همچنان ادامه داشت و پیش میرفت. خواستم بدانم که این در اون طرف کیه که این روابط برقرار کرده. من در کتاب خیانت قومی 55 مورد شرح دادم که ما با دستگاه کارتر رسیدیم به راه حل، یک سابوتاژ شد و این راه حل از بین رفت و این 55 مورد سابوتاژ از امریکا میشد. اون وقت فهمیدیم به این که 2000 نفر رو به ما گفتن گروه زیادی رو از سیاه تصویری کردن و اینها برای ریگان و بوش کار میکنن. بین اونها نامی که به ما بیشتر به گوش ما میرسید نام کیسی بود.
Well, the first American name I was informed of was Mr. Casey. I didn't know who Mr. Casey was, but as things progressed, his name was appearing more and more. In a book, the first book I wrote since I left Iran, called Betrayal of Hopes, I have listed 55 instances where every time we were getting very close to the resolution of hostage affairs with Carter administration, I listed these 55 instances which took place and blocked the resolution. I'd become, as time passed, become more and more interested to see what actually happened. My studies, my information indicate that a large number of CIA officers were fired when Mr. Turner was the head of the CIA under President Carter. And my information is that a good number of those people were working with Reagan campaign, and they were the sources of information and leaked to them, and also the source of blocking the resolution of the hostage affair.
A point of information, where is that book now? Is it in French? But then people get hold of it.
It's
also translated in French with Esperance. Esperance Prahi. French and French, right?
Publisher? I would think some of them might be interested. Papyrus. Can we spell it? If nobody's interested, I'll quit, but I would think it might.
I guess it's Popyrus. That's how it sounds. Papy. I'm sorry, Papyrus. That's the publisher.
Somebody's going to get the last one. And I would ask you, the security people we've brought on board for this project, ask if you can just sit in your seats a little while, let us get them out and off and away from
Where do you go from here?
I think we're doing a night-long documentary, and then there'll be a reception tonight. Love to have you come, 6:30, and here in the Jefferson Hotel, which is where he's staying. So,
is he going before anybody in Congress?
He will meet with, or you can answer that, or he'll meet with selected members of the House Armed Services Committee. It's being organized by Representative Lee Hamilton, who is the chairman of the subcommittee on the Middle East. That will be tomorrow morning. House Foreign Affairs, sorry. Thank you.
We got on the way in here refers to secret deals between the current Iranian and U.S. leaderships. Are there allegations that you want to make about the Bush administration?
What do you mean by that? I'm sorry.
It says in the press release, current Iranian and U.S. leaderships.
چیزی که دادیم به اینکه راجع به روابط فعلی این دولت بوش و دولت حاکم بر ایران. چیز خاصی میخوایم بگیم در این زمینه؟
خاص این است که اینا همون روابط به صورت غیر علنی ادامه داره و به نظر من روابط بین دولت‌ها باید علنی، رسمی، منطبق بر قوانین ملی و بین المللی باشه. روابط محرمانه همیشه پرفساده و علالاصل کوشش من در این نوشتن این کتاب این نبوده که کسانی رو به محاکمه بکشم و همه رنجی که ملت ما برده. من منتخب اون ملت بودم، در آزادی اون ملت من رو انتخاب کرد و اینجا در طبیعتم در ورسای مثل یک زندانی زندگی میکنم. کسان من و همکاران من که خصوصا در این روابط محرمانه کار میکردن اعدام شدن. صدها بلکه هزارها در ایران اعدام شدن. بدترین استبدادها در ایران حاکمه و ملت ما بر این نظر است و به حق که امریکا نیز بخشی از این مسئولیت رو بر عهده دارد و اینا نتیجه این روابط محرمانه است. این روابط محرمانه پرفساد باید جای خود رو بده به روابط علنی آشکار قانونی.
Well, the same secret relations existed since it started, and it does exist. There are secret contacts between the two governments. I strongly believe, and I oppose them because I strongly believe that the relations and contacts between the governments should be open and legal. Unhealthy, illegal, secret deals are full of corruption. The corruption, in my view, in this case, which has led to what you see in Iran partly. I have not been trying at all to put anybody on trial. What I'm concerned with, as an elected president, I was elected president of my country, with what happens in Iran and to my people. Hundreds and thousands of Iranians have been executed. My own family have been tortured. People close to me have been arrested, and those who had knowledge about this secret deal have been executed. I myself live in a state of, siege, like a prisoner in Paris, in exile. I don't think that is healthy. I don't think that should happen. I would like to see the relations to go open, be normal, be legal.
There are still secret contacts between the two governments.
منبعتون به اینکه روابط هنوز وجود داره چیه؟
بگید از منابع مهمتر امرهای واقعا که هر روز توی منطقه واقع میشن. گیریم به این که مقامات امریکایی چندین نوبت خودشون گفتن با ایران تماس دارن خصوص در جریان جنگ ایران ایران.
First of all, the American sources, the American administration has said quite a few times that they have contacts with Iranians through third party, especially recently in the Gulf War. But more important than the sources are the events that take place. Just follow the events in the last 10 years.
مثلا بگید منابع ما در داخل خود همون رژیم ایرانه و از اونجا به ما اطلاع میدن.
I don't mean that I don't have sources. I do have sources within the government in Iran. But again, the more important than that is the fact that these events are taking place. You have to follow. Thank you very much.